Hello, I am Jihoon from We Learn to Share. Today, I'll be going over trig derivatives, which I think many struggle with. I will be explaining them as fun and interactive as I can, so let's start right away. I like to group the trigs into three parts: sine and cosine, secant and cosecant, tangent and cotangent. So, let's see sine and cosine. I think this is pretty straightforward. Derivative of sine is cosine. Derivative of cosine is negative sine. This is unfortunately just one of the things that you have to memorize, but it's not that hard, so just take that note. Next is secant. Okay, so this is where things might get confusing, but don't worry. Secant, I like to call it sec, because the derivative of secant is secant tan. Sec tan. Like, go to the beach, you see some dudes tanning. Because tanning is sick. Bruh. Okay, so I like to memorize it using this, because tanning is sick, tan. Cosecant works same way secant does, so it clones itself, just like secant did here, right? So I'll write cosecant, and I'll multiply the opposite of tangent. So instead of tangent, we will have cotangent. And there's one thing I want you guys to take note of. Whenever there's a C, as I've written down here, it implies a negative. So that's why we've been saying negative for cosine, because it starts with a C. So there must be a negative. For cosecant, there's a C. So there should be a negative. This is a rule that applies not only to these 6 trigonometric derivatives, but also for inverse. So that is an important note you should make. After that, we have tangent and cotangent. We might have seen earlier that secant and tangent has a very close relationship. Cosecant and cotangent also has a close relationship. And that applies here too. Derivative of tangent is secant x squared. Derivative of cotangent is cosecant x squared. But of course, as I said, C is a negative, so we put a negative here. Okay, I'll give you guys a tip when you don't know what to do. Like, let's say you forgot a derivative. Let's just say cosecant. Derivative of cosecant. You're supposed to derive this, but you don't know. What you can do is just take derivative. But instead of cosecant, let's make it into a more familiar form, which is 1 over sine x. Now, doesn't that seem a little bit more easier? We can say that 1 over sine x is sine to the negative 1. And now we just have to use power rule and chain rule, of course. So let's just take the derivative. Negative 1, because the negative 1 comes down, and sine stays as it is because of chain rule. But we have to subtract 1 here, like that. But because of chain rule, we have to multiply cosine. Now that is negative 1 over sine x times cosine x over sine x, which cancels, and this turns into cotangent because tangent is sine over cosine, cotangent is cosine over sine. And this is cosecant x. And we bring down the negative. Okay. Isn't that easier now? So even when you're stuck, just remember to make it into a simpler form, like 1 over sine x, and use it. Okay, let's do one practice problem. This. Derivative of secant 3x squared. You can pause the video. Did you guys finish? Okay. So, derivative of secant of 3x squared. What was the derivative of secant? Secant tangent. Okay. But instead of just x, it's 3x squared. So we would put 3x squared times tangent of 3x squared. But you shouldn't forget the chain rule. We have to bring the derivative of 3x squared outside. So it would be 6x times all of this. So our final answer would be 6x times secant 3x squared times tangent 3x squared. Whoa, now that we look at it, it's pretty simple, right? If you guys have any trig derivatives or any other derivatives you want me to work on, just comment down below, and you can support us by subscribing and pressing the like button.